Now that I have a supermarket, it's time to prepare for the last round of Wheel of the Chancellor Day to grow the city some more. So, getting all that set up. Now, when you're towards the end of the game, the amount of shields that your city produces becomes very important because it will govern how easy or difficult it is to make spaceship parts, or rather, how expensive it'll be. So, now the original guides to the One City Challenge recommended that you make sure your city be able to produce 80 shields with all the improvements, because that way you can build your spaceship structurals in one turn, and you can basically, it's really easy to build them that way. Like, you don't have to spend a lot of money, especially if you have a fair number of freight and caravans stocked up. Now, what you do there is you don't build any pollution improvements at all, and you just have 2 engineers that are dedicated to cleaning up the pollution that occurs every turn. And if it doesn't occur on some turn, then you're lucky. Now, if you have some cash stockpiled, you can actually have fewer shields produced. If you only have around 60 shields of production, you can use a recycling center and a plant along with your factory, and you can use the mass transit as well, and then you don't have to have the engineers dedicated to cleaning up your pollution because you won't make any. Now that was actually going to be that was the plan I was going to use, and so you'll see that I will end up irrigating a couple of those forests and turning them into plains. So here I'm doing more of the let's try to minimize the amount of wasted science, and I think in a couple of times in this video I'll actually have made at least once, and probably 2 or 3 times, that I made that something shifted, like my key sieve or whatever. So my key civilization would shift or something like that, and I'd actually lose a turn of production. Oh yeah, here the Persians discover communism, so I lose the effect of Marco Polo's embassy. Doesn't really matter at this point, though. Especially if you're, because at this point you're not going to be you're not going to be controlling the technologies and stuff very closely, because you're going to want to technology lead if possible. Now wait, another thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to discover all the technologies you can before, that you can discover before you discover flight, at least all the ones that are on path. And you see right there, I missed a discovery because my key civilization changed. Yeah, so there I got rid of a couple of forests in order to get extra food and trade, oh, mostly trade. So there I researched communism so that I could trade for it. And, okay. There I researched espionage because I wasn't sure if there were any other technologies that were on path to spaceflight that didn't require flight first. Or I guess not spaceflight, but fusion power. Now, ultimately I shouldn't have done that because I didn't actually need to get espionage then. But it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so about... Yeah, so it was about here that I realized that I didn't have enough money stockpiled in order to easily build a spaceship with only 60 shields production. So I'm going to actually turn a couple of my grasslands into forests to get extra shields. Now, the amount of money I had, I think it was like really close to the amount of money you'd have to spend, and I just didn't want to make the risk. Take the Now, if you're playing yourself, you may want to go and actually plan through when you're going to discover the technologies, so you know which technologies are going to be hidden at a time. You can plan around that. There's information about doing that sort of stuff online. Shouldn't be too hard to find anyway. Yeah, you know, I built city walls there just because, you know, it's kind of worth having just to make sure. Yeah, so there I sold the mass transit because I'm just going to use engineers to clean up pollution anyway. So when you get close enough to spaceflight, what you want to do is you want to start producing a wonder of the world so that you can switch to Apollo program. Because if you're producing more than 50 shields, then you lose shields of production if you just continue to stockpile freight. Yeah, so there I realized that since I had to take an off-path technology, I didn't want to finish the Manhattan Project first, and I might as well convert my guys to some of the production to scientists instead of shields. Now you'll notice that in my city I have a food deficit that came from like shifting around the forests and everything. You don't have to worry about it because you'll probably have stockpiled so much food that it won't matter because you won't run out before the end of the game. So there, you know, switch to Apollo program. And disband something to make sure it gets produced. Well, I guess there wasn't any risk. It wouldn't have been produced, and it will now. So. Yeah, there are the Romans. Canceling the alliance.
We have ignition. Commit liftoff. We have liftoff. Beautiful view. Hey, got something? Magnificent sight out here. Here, men from the planet Earth, first step foot upon the moon. It came in peace for all mankind.